we had Tim Sylvia on for the first installment of On the Record with Frank Mir, which is going to be.
Well, that's what it was called.
Yeah, it had a name and everything. I was about to compose a theme song. Yeah. So we'll be doing more of it. Like I said, fortunately, we've got a number of opponents to choose from, but one in particular that we thought we were going to have a couple of weeks ago, and we have not told everybody. We kind of alluded a couple of weeks ago, I guess it's probably the better part of a month now, to the fact that we thought we had something really big planned for the beginning of March. And it was all set. It had been confirmed, and it was canceled at the last minute. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, or would you like to explain who was supposed to be here in the bunker, Frank?
Well, it was going to be Mark Hunt.
Mark Hunt.
We were going to have Mark Hunt sit in here, and I was going to be able to interview him. Also, too, that way we could talk face-to-face about the whole drug testing issue afterwards. I wanted, I feel like anytime you talk to somebody and he was involved in the situation, you should be able to look them eye to eye and have this conversation.
And what happened was this. We were contacted by a film crew that's doing a documentary on him, an Australian film crew. And it went back months. I mean, it was like, I want to say it was like at least 6 months ago, if not longer, probably fall of last year, when they first reached out about trying to get you to participate in the documentary. And so you and I talked about it, and I said, well, what if, if you're willing to do it, what if you do it, but we get him to be a guest on the podcast, we sit down, we do this in person, that gives you a chance to talk to him. We get that content out of it, but then they can also use that for the documentary. And apparently everybody loved the idea. I mean, the person with the documentary company told me that both Mark and Mark's manager had signed off on the idea and that they liked the idea of doing it. And this was back in, I want to say, early February. So at that point, we've had, basically about a month's notice with Mark's confirmation and with his manager's confirmation they wanted to do it. Now, they were going to do it during his fight week, when just this the fight here in Vegas that he had with Alistair Overeem. And so, that was, I was kind of impressed by that okay, well, if you got time to do this and not just worry about the fights or whatever, then cool. And the whole plan was, so that was first, right? Then they contacted us and said, okay, give us the address of like the studio or whatever. And I said, well, we tape our podcast at Frank's house, and we've just built out a bunker, a studio, and how about we do it in here? And they were like, awesome. And it was all set, and it got nixed, I want to say with about 48 hours notice. And I never talked to Mark.
No, it was the Monday.
Yeah.
Monday before the Wednesday.
Because it was going to be a Wednesday, right. And I never talked to Mark, and I never talked to his manager. I heard from the one of the directors of the documentary, and he said, well, they're not going to be able to, they're not going to do that. We still want Frank on. And then at that point, you had declined to do that because why would you just do?
That was my exact words.
No, it wasn't your exact words, but
I was like, fuck them.
Yeah, and I said, I told him, I'm like, listen, it's really important to Frank to be able to have this conversation, and we're happy to have it, but that's got to be part of the deal. And I even said, hey, if you want to look at rescheduling it sometime, we could do it. Now we've got a Skype connection. We could get Mark on Skype in here if he'd like to reconsider coming on. But I that's where I kind of left it, and that was kind of the last I heard about it. But it was disappointing because, one, I think everybody would have tuned in for that and would have loved to have heard it. But also, how rare is it for something controversial like this to happen? I mean, it's impressive enough that two guys who just were fighting each other a year ago are sitting down and talking, but then also if there's controversy surrounding that fight with the USADA test, that you're going to want to sit down and talk about it. And normally you would think you would be the one who wouldn't want to talk. You were the one who was like come to my house, sit down, come on the podcast, let's talk about it. I'll tell you, I'll answer any of your questions. It wasn't like we said, okay, we'll have this conversation, but don't ask about this or don't ask about that. There was no stipulation like that. So it was really too bad, because I really thought, once it was confirmed with him and his manager, I thought, man, this is on. This is happening. And we didn't announce it just because, there's that part of me that's like, well, until we're all sitting here, I'm not going to believe it. And even though I thought it was about 99% for sure, now you're hearing it for the first time, the almost was near miss of having Mark Hunt sitting inside Frank Mears' house here inside our bunker doing the podcast with us. But it's still not too late, Mark. If you'd like to join us via Skype from the land down under, you know what? Not to speak for you, Frank, but how about we'll even accommodate the time difference.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
we can work that out. So
I'll do the Skype thing, but then that means the documentary I'll only do by Skype.
There you go. Okay. I have always, and I don't know Mark. I mean, I've just interviewed him very briefly, I think once or twice, but I've always, liked him as a guy.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. After reading his book, holy smokes! When you read that, that's like the most honest autobiography I've ever read, and you see like that guy's life story and what he's been through. I would really, just for other reasons, like a chance to have him on the show and talk about that and everything. So hopefully that'll work out. And now Phone Booth Fighting listeners know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, about who that big guest was supposed to be, and hopefully we can do it again at some point in the near future.